Today, we're looking at a green ink by Zenzoi Apple Green. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, if you like fountain pen ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. Also, if you're interested, you can follow me over on Instagram. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I did the writing samples, inked up a Levenger True Writer with a broad nib, wrote with it for a day, and then used it to take the notes for this video. This first writing sample is done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper in order to have some kind of standardization to look at. There's additional writing samples later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in cartridge form, and they came in little boxes of 24 cartridges, and there was 2 different kinds, so I went and I got all of them and experimented with them a whole bunch. 12 colors in all, but this was their Summer Colors edition. This is their variety pack of colors. I don't remember which one this is. Apple Green, sounds like it would be Summer Colors, but I got these in cartridge form. Now, to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no real shading, 9 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, a very nice shading. Truly fantastic here. I'm at a loss. I wasn't expecting it with this tone. 16 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine does show some color variation, very little, although we got none. The medium shows good color variation. We got good shading. Tomoe River. No bleeding. Very little Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is a lot lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 12 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 19 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation, and there was none in the writing. And Rhodia. With no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 8 seconds to dry. Medium is much darker than the extra fine. I want to say just a tad lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice shading that's going on throughout here. Look at the word fox. Look at the word brown. The B and the N, totally different tones. It's really working its way through. 16 seconds to dry. Scrubby of the extra fine shows the tiniest bit of color variation, and maybe the K in quick is a slight bit darker, and that's it. Medium shows just as little color variation, and we do get it a little bit more in the medium, but in all, not a lot of color variation on Rhodia. I agree with Vita that there's a lot to be learned by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see a very, very bright green moving its way up, but at the very top of it, what we see is a very light, super light blue right across the entire top. It's not a bright blue. It's a very light toned blue. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And the thing is, the whole thing traveled a little bit farther up the filter paper, but ultimately it looks the same. If I didn't mark this filter paper, I don't know that I would be able to tell which is which. I'm not expecting any kind of resistance here. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before I test it. Looking at the highlighter, you could use this in a note-taking situation if you wanted to. It's the same as it was before it was highlighted. It's not blown out and unreadable. It's not washed out. I'm just not sure how comfortable that green on that yellow would be to read. However, it does hold up to if you want to use it in a note-taking situation and go back and highlight. Water is completely reactivating. You see a lot of the white of the paper coming through. It only took water for me to get this out of my pen. Pen flush is very weird in what's happened. I think I transferred some turquoise from a paper towel, but regardless, what we see with the green areas of where the pen flush is that it's reactivating and lifting, but not all of it. It doesn't seem to be doing as much as water did. Again, I think I made some mistakes in cleaning that up, but water's all that I needed to get it out of my pen anyway, so it's sort of a moot point. Or is it moo, like a cow's opinion? It's a moo point. Moo. 1/3 bleach solution completely removes it from the paper, but like that cow's opinion, it's moo. I test ink viscosity or flow by using a tilt test, and I've linked that video and put that in here for you. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Zenzoi's Apple Green has a viscosity of 1.82, making it a wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average all of those. Now, for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Zenzoi's Apple Green has an average dry time of 13 seconds, putting it right on the edge, but still normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Zenzoi's Apple Green, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a nice gray and chose Diamine Graphite. The second writing sample is done on Levenger, Franklin Christoph, and black and red paper. Here we're looking at Levenger paper. Now we get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has some tiny feathering that's occurring. It's really, I'm not even sure if I would be able to get you to see it without zooming way in on the camera. It's there, the tiniest bit. Absolutely not really a problem for how it's performing. No spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub. With no feather, spread, halo, sheen, there are a few more bits of shading than we've seen in the past on some of these inks, but it's not tons. 3 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub, with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. I'm saying no feather, but if you look at the K, like the word quick, there's about as much feather as we get at the top. But again, far from distracting, far from really being a problem, although this is very good paper that it's on. 6 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine shows some color variation, medium shows none. The extra fine did have spots where the color variation shows up. This is just much more than we actually get. Franklin Christoph paper. We do get some bleeding spots going on with the medium, which leads to a little bit of show through. It's not the end of the world, but the spotting I wouldn't be able to get past to write on the back of the page. Doesn't touch the page underneath. The 1.1, ridiculous feathering all over the place. Tons of it. Now I would want to blame the paper and not the ink, except the fact that it did feather on Levenger paper, which is also a very good paper. Lots of feathering. No spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, no use. No, bad. Bad. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. 7 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub, with ridiculous feathering the whole way through. Bad news, don't do it. No. No spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 13 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both shows no color variation, and there is none. And last up is black and red notebooks, with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is just a little bit lighter than the stub, with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. 8 seconds to dry. Medium is by far the darkest tone on the page. With no feather, spread, halo, sheen, there are a couple little spots of shading that do occur. 14 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine shows a little bit of color variation, although we got none. The medium shows none, although we did get a little. And that's what I have for writing samples. We'll put that on film or screen. That word. So what do I think of Zenzoi's Apple Green? This is a very bright green, but it's not neon, and it doesn't hurt your eyes to be able to read it off the page. I found this to be a real winner amongst some of the inks that were very inexpensive out there. What nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? A very wet pen is going to eat up the shading that this ink has to offer, but a medium flow broad really puts down a pleasant tone that still has some of the shading. I do new ink reviews every single day, so if you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.